Hello friends, welcome to Squaird Plans, where creative planning and organization comes to life. I'm Stephanie, and today we're going to be designing my faith planner for the month of August. We'll be setting up the monthly pages with a vintage theme in my classic happy planner, so come plan with me. And I've got this mile liner here, ready to go, as well as some vintage papers, some washi tape, some vintage style stickers, and this happy planner sticker book, which I'll pull from. Okay, you guys, so let's jump in. I'm going to get started with the weekly layouts first this week, and then tackle the monthly pages soon after. I do think I know what I want to do as far as color scheme, but I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to piece everything together. So this video does take a bit. I have 5 weekly pages to set up, as well as a monthly layout, month overview, and then a back page as well. There's a lot. There's a lot. I'm just going to put that there. So I'm going to start with collecting items that I think I want to use here. I've pulled a teal-toned washi that I think will be the color that I'm going to highlight. It's like a teal, maybe, I don't know, it's got a blue tone to it as well, but green-blue color. And I'm going to mix that in with maybe some warmer tones too for contrast. So I pulled out a page or a paper from that paper booklet with a postal theme, and I think I'm going to have a little bit of that, kind of script writing, stamp-like elements, and then also anything with a blue-green tone. So I've pulled some stamp stickers, some different paper types with that blue scene on there with the bird, some tissue paper that has kind of that teal and orange combo muddled together. I've got this rosy posy page, which is actually a big sticker page that I'm going to cut down and use for some of that blue teal coloring as well. And now I'm going through my large stamp pack, which is all in the botanicals, pulling in colors that I think will go well with the theme, which may or may not match up, but we'll find out. And then also maybe some die cut stickers. I'll go through those. Majority of these items came from either the Stationery Pal or Your Creative Studio. I got a vintage box from them. Those were the main two. But I will try to find all the links to everything I pulled and link it below down in the description if there's anything that you fancy from this spread, so that you can easily find it yourself and add it to your collection. So I've gone through that. I've also started weeding out some of those die cut stickers, looking for items from there. And I've opened up the Happy Planner sticker book, looking for maybe some quotes and things. That is a faith-based Happy Planner sticker book, so I think it will be a good fit to kind of tie in the vintage theme with some faith ideas. And just flipping through, I really did think there was a little bit more teal in this book, but really the only page I think I found is this Weekly Faith Challenge theme page. So we'll see what we can make work with that. I'm going to start figuring out how I'm going to decorate each week. The way that I normally do this layout is that I will only decorate the this week area, because I use the days for lettering, a verse each day. So I do use the entire box for the lettering portion. It's just easier to focus in the decor in one spot here on the weekly, and then I can also repeat that multiple times for each week without having too much of a mental breakdown trying to decorate each week. So this is how I've been doing it all year, and this has been working out really well. As you can see, I'm just going mainly right now for a collage look. with a little bit of the teal and the orange kind of popping through for the color. Like I said, some of these are papers and then some of them have sticker backing, so I'll use what I can in the paper aspect and then glue those down as needed. But the stickers will also kind of help me build this out without having to glue anything down to the wax paper. I've gotten a lot of inspiration for vintage themes from like Instagram and stuff, but honestly, I still feel a little bit clumsy with this kind of eclectic look, mixing together papers and various items that don't necessarily have a strong shape or color palette to work off of. So it's just more of a collage kind of feel for the way that I've been doing the decor for my vintage themes. So that's what we're going to do here. It's not going to be anything profound. I really think you need the right combination of things to really make a unique vintage style theme. And I never seem to have the right elements that I feel like can really pull it off. So I just make do with what I have. I still think it's really fun to look at. I love the collage idea of things, but I would just love to find a way to use these in a little bit more of a structured way, something that I could repeat, similar to how I design my horizontal layouts, where there's just different aspects of the decor that you can lay out in almost like formulaic ways so that you can get a good result. Haven't quite worked out how to do that yet with the vintage items. So my go-to is always a collage, but these ones are working out pretty well, just kind of clustering them together and getting just a nice mix of textures and feels. So I've kind of gotten where I think I like the very first week's layout. And so what I'm just going to do is all on this sheet, create the different weeks all at once here on this one spread, even though each one will have just that top left corner decorated. I'm just going to use the quad box here on the spread to give me an idea of the shape of the box and the amount of space I need, and then I'll just lay it out here on the spread. So there's going to be quite a bit of this. Basically, each of these clusters has a couple of different repeating elements. The large stamp, of course, is one of the main elements to tie things together. Also, the teal toned kind of postage paper, and then the really rusty orange colored paper as well for a little bit of contrast and color there. I'm adding a little bit of that tissue muddled teal and orange paper as a background element. Combining that with the blue, I'm going to call that the blue French scripty sticker paper. Maybe a die cut element or two, but for the most part, those are the main things, plus the two washis that I decided on, which was a nice script washi, and then that teal toned washi I pulled for color. And finally, that quote element from the Happy Planner sticker book. That said, I've made up 2 of the 4, but ends up being 5 weeks, as you'll see a little bit later down the road. And I'm just going to use that same formula to develop the rest of these spreads. Ripping a lot of the edges so that it has a little bit of that torn paper look. I'm also trying not to layer the really light, clear washi stickers over anything too dark or heavy so you won't be able to see through it. Being mindful of the background behind that sticker so that they show up. Making sure I'm covering the entire space that I want to have covered. Keeping the formula pretty much the same each time, just so that I know that I have elements of all those things in each. I'm also using this washi tape that I got from Daiso that has a little bit of a soft vintage feel as a filler. So any place where I feel like I'm going to need a little extra to it, I'm laying that in. And that's working out well. Kind of like how I'm using the die cut stickers as well. They're more like filler stickers for the spread. Working on the fourth version here. You can just kind of see the process. I am trying to vary the position of like where the washi is laid down, what colors are on the top, what colors are on the bottom, what papers I'm using, in what areas. Just trying to mix and match things up so it's not too repetitive looking, that each cluster has something unique to it. And just so that I can make sure everything's placed properly, I'm going to glue down the things I can glue down in certain places. I will say that with these clusters, I had some that came out better, I feel like, than others. That's just the way it works. You do this. But as a collective theme, I think this is a really fun one to do, and really doesn't take that much skill. It's more about just adding enough items to create interest, and also to having some kind of color theme to really help sell the idea. So that teal washi and that rusty orange, I think, really help bring each of these clusters together and make them feel related to each other. So just a tip when you're trying to create clusters like this, some ideas for your theme so that it comes together nicely in the end. And okay, I think we're going to try to move these guys over. Let's get started with the first week. And I'm just using a regular glue stick there. I think I got that one at Stationery Pal from a while back. Works out really well. It also gives you a little bit of play before it dries so that in case you need to move things around or make adjustments, you have a little bit of time to do that. I like that aspect of it as opposed to just using a like Tombow glue runner or something, because sometimes when you lay those down, there's no moving them after they're down on the page. So this makes it a little bit easier to finagle things, adjust things a little bit before they're completely committed to your page. And I have a little bit of overlap there on some of those, so we're just going to trim that off with my precision cutter. Maybe even reuse that extra trimming. Glue down anything that I can that I haven't already. I think we're looking good. And then this is when I realized and recounted and was like, oh, nope, there's there's 5, not 4. So we'll just go ahead and finish laying these out, and then I'll do that 5th one real quick. This one is a little bit interesting because I don't want the washi tape to be covered by this paper. I'll have to do some movement here, maybe even shrink it down a little bit so it fits better. That'll work. Go ahead and do the trimming. And okay, 3 weeks down, one more to go. Gonna make a little bit of a rougher edge here at the top. Trying to figure out how best to lay this in. I obviously oversized them a little bit so that I could trim them to fit, just because I wasn't actually designing them on the space that I would be using them, so I wanted to make sure that they would be big enough to fill the entire square there. And making those adjustments, gluing things down. Looks good. We're going to go ahead and do the trimming. That looks good too. Trim off the edge. And the 4th week is done. So we got one more to do. I think I know the formula well enough to wing it now, so let's just see what we come up with. I'm going to bring in another sheet of that teal paper with some of that tissue. Tear up a little bit of this blue sticker paper. Add that as a background. We'll start laying things in. I like that. Have a little bit of each of those elements I mentioned before. Really helps build consistently over and over again so that everything matches up and isn't too hard to repeat. And let's go ahead and glue this down. This tissue paper as well. Looks good. Just clean that up real quick. And then I was using all of these scripty versions of the long quotes, but then I ran out because I had 4 and I was like, oh, I have 4, perfect. You know, 1 for each week. But then I didn't have any more, so we're just going to break with my little, thematic thing and add another one of these quotes, just in more of a, I think it's a print font that I choose. This hurts my type A heart when I have to do things like this. I really like consistency and pattern and repetition, so when things don't quite match up like I envisioned, sometimes it hurts a little, but I'm working through it. You do what you got to do. Probably won't even notice as the month progresses, but I know now, so I'm like, wish I had had a 5th one just to make everything feel the same. So we're pretty much done with those weeklies. Let's move on to the month overview next, since that has the most decor I think that I'm going to need, and see what I have left. So I haven't used yet the Rosy Posy sticker page I cut up into the individual items there. I got that really large postcard with the blue, I think those are herons or some kind of stork nest on there. And then the smaller squares actually have the words faith, hope, and love on them. So I thought that was a nice fit too here for the faith planning theme. I got those. I've got a little bit of that blue French script paper. Trying to figure out how to lay this guy in though, because the birds are actually printed on the side of the postcard, which is weird. So I'm trying to figure out the best orientation for that. Gonna bring in a little bit more of that tissue paper. Have a few different squares of that. Really just trying to figure out how best to make some collages here on the page. Still allow it to be functional. So again, ripping out the pages a little to create that torn paper look, layering a few things. This is a pretty long video, so I think we're almost like 20 minutes in by now. And I have still left to do the monthly layout and then the very back page. So you can skip ahead if this is too much for you. I totally get it. It's a lot. It took me a long time to do this. I think in total it took me a little over 2 hours to do all of the spreads. So it was a bit of a challenge, but we got it done. We got it done, you guys. It does feel good to have this theme all mapped out and ready to go at the beginning of the month. And I don't have to think or, worry about doing spreads each week. That is one of the best things about taking the time to do this setup at the beginning of the month or before the month begins. It just really helps my workflow and just takes a lot of stress off of me. Once it's ready to go, it's way easier for me to engage with my planner with it already decorated. I do find sometimes like my weeklies that I do, which is like my horizontal and my health planner, my lined vertical, those I do decor on a weekly basis, which is fun. I really enjoy the creative side of things, but having to do it every week sometimes does become a bit of a challenge. So this is a great way for you to do in any type of planner that you have. If you want to have it decorated and do some creative things to it, but you just don't have a lot of time to devote to that side of planning, then theming out your whole month in advance, I think, is a great way to kind of get a little bit of that creativity and that drive to pull you into your planner without too much of a time commitment. And if possible, you do it all in the same theme, and it really makes that even easier. If you have the amount of decor that you need to do all of your weeks in one type of theme, then that much better. So that top cluster is really very similar as far as the elements that you saw in the weeklies. I'm going to deviate a little bit down here in this smaller cluster just because I don't have really the space to do it all mixed in with that face floral sticker paper there. So we'll just use what we can to create a similar effect and tie everything together, but maybe with a few less items since I am using that faith floral as one of the main elements. So that said, I'm going to pull in maybe another type of sticker here. And these are clear stickers, but have that same teal green tone. For this faith one, I've used the Trusting God. I think it's a Trusting God in. It's more of a prompt type of header, but I just cut off the N and just saying Trusting God, faith. I think those relate well together. And then I just used a couple of those washies again and a die cut sticker with the tissue paper and called that cluster a day. And now we're going to do a similar, smaller cluster up here at the top, but I think I'm going to focus a little bit more with the orange tones and still use those washi elements. There's no right or wrong. I'm just trying to make everything feel related to each other, but not overwhelm the spread as well. That can get a little bit tricky. And then I thought I might pull in this semicircle sticker that says pray and replace my prayer list header there with that, but I don't know, it's a little bit awkward feeling. So we're going to go back to these strip stickers and try maybe to pull in something from there. In the end, I was like, no, let's go ahead and repeat that clear sticker that I'd used at the bottom for the Trusting God. Let's repeat that element so that it feels connected. So that's what we're going to do. And I think I pulled one that just said answered prayer, which was sort of related to the prayer list element there. So we'll see how we work that out. Sticking things down now, starting with this larger one here on the right, gluing down the papers and anything else that's just kind of hanging out there. Hopefully I've left myself enough room for a good monthly quote to letter in right below that large cluster. And now we're moving on to gluing down the smaller clusters here on the left and trimming things off. There we go. Make a little bit of an adjustment there to that sticker. And move on to highlighting some of these habit trackers, adding in a little bit more of that teal color. And I'll just start my prayer list prompts there. I just track the same things each month. So if you want a real good look at how I'm using my faith planner, you can either tune in monthly to my flip through videos that I do live and see how I've used them for the entire month. Or you can check out my mid-year flip through that I posted in July that goes through the first 6 months of my faith planner only. So you can just see how all of the themes came out and how I used each month. So now that we're on to the monthly, we are going to create a few more clusters, again, using that same formula, but there's a lot less space on this spread to really utilize. I've got a couple of days here at the end of the month that I can put something in, and a couple at the beginning of the month, and then the sidebar, and that's pretty much it. So I'm just going to start with a cluster here on the bottom right-hand side, using the leftover elements of that Love and Hope sticker paper that I got from the Rosie Posey book. Trying to tie in all the right colors there without, again, overwhelming the area. This one was a little bit trickier than it looked. And I want to reuse this leftover postcard element, which I really liked, but also tie in the Hope floral here. So let's see what we can come up with. I think I'm just going to do more of a bracket shape here, going into the sidebar a little bit, but also into the monthly empty days, utilizing all that space to create kind of a corner collage. I'm also pulling in a few of these paper, like almost antique paper stamp stickers that are a little bit smaller instead of using the large ones, because again, it is a little bit trickier here in this smaller area that I have to work in. I did use, I think, one of those already on the previous layout, so that'll tie in, and then maybe I'll use them on the very back page as well. Again, just repeating elements, tying the whole theme together. And of course we need to add in a little bit of that teal and script washi. Just layering that up. Trimming off some of that tissue paper. And then seeing if there's a quote in here that I can bring in. And this one should work out really nicely. It says reflecting. And that's how I use the monthly layouts. I actually do what I call the takeaway, which is a small snippet from my daily reading. I do a daily Bible reading, and just something I can take away from the reading that I can apply to my life. So kind of reflecting on what I had just read and making it applicable to me. So, all right, let's go ahead and move these guys over. Gluing things down here and trimming off the excess. We've got this other larger element. I'm going to go ahead and pre-glue the backs, make it a little bit easier here. Hopefully I can align everything properly. little bit trickier than it looks. I think I'm going to have to separate these and reset this other element so that it's perfectly aligned to the edge. And that looks good. Gluing things down and trimming off the excess. And here I'm just going to add a little highlight bar on each day so that I can actually write in the verses that I read from the Bible that day. This is something I've been doing all year, so I'm just going to continue this process. And then on the top of it, that's where I'll add in that takeaway that I mentioned before. And because of that, I need to make an adjustment here on this lower edge so that I can fit those verses in on top of the collage I've got going. So those look good. We got the final page to do here. Just gonna drop in a little bit of the tissue paper, just build out something that hopefully will look good. Just gonna wing it. That's where we're at with this. Add a little bit more of the French scripty blue paper. This one is not a sticker sheet, so it's just regular paper, but it's the same image that I had before, so I'm gonna bring that in, glue it down. Add a little bit of that rusty orange color from the other paper. Maybe find a stamp that will work. This one's not my favorite as far as the stamp choices there, but I needed something that was dark enough but didn't clash with the other colors. So we're going to add that in. I switched out the orange to have something a little bit less bold there. Bringing in a quote. This one's a little less structured, more free form here on the edges. Maybe I can bring in some elements to kind of box it out a bit more like the others. And that's gonna do it, friends. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up down below. Also, too, go ahead and leave me a comment if you'd like to get in touch. And think about subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, if you'd like to see more of my videos. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And we will see you next time. Bye!